Wonder. Cash Pop, new from the Florida Lottery. It's your ticket.
Tens of thousands of people living across the United States can trace their roots back to the same ugly truth. They're descendants of slaves. The only tangible family history many have exists in the form of old cemeteries.
But many of those sites are at risk of being erased, either reclaimed by wilderness or threatened by urbanization. Katie Kaplan joins us live in the studio tonight with more on how a network of cousins in South Georgia is working to prevent that from happening. Katie?
Well, Ben, Abby, listen to this. One expert telling me there are believed to be thousands of similar sites across the country, and right now it's up to the local communities to preserve them. Morven, Georgia.
This is the region in the 1800s. It was all wild-grass territory.
A vanishing town in Brooks County, roughly a 30-minute drive outside Valdosta, where Fannie Marie Jackson Gibbs grew up.
In my 69th year, I'm back at that pond, and I'm saying to Daddy, I'm doing all I can to bring your relatives home.
On one of the coldest days of the year, we stand in a church cemetery to talk about a different one.
When I was a little girl, they would take us down there.
She says the final resting place of some of the area's first slaves, many of whom are believed to have labored carving out historic Coffee Road about a mile away, have long ago been reclaimed by the elements.
There are at least 100 tombstones of enslaved people in the woods right there.
Now a forested island surrounded by farmland, and the basis for a nonprofit created to help raise money to restore it, a cause that reaches far beyond the Brooks County line.
We are literally all over the country, and our roots are there in Georgia.
Janet Elder of Virginia says her great-grandparents are buried there, the start of an extended family tree that stretches to hundreds of people across the country.
Those grandchildren have what we've documented at least 107 great-grandchildren, and that's my generation.
She's part of a private Facebook page created for descendants of enslaved families from Brooks County, nearly 130 members, all of them likely related.
I wanted to bring all the families back together again.
Creator Kelinda Brown of Atlanta says it's a tool that helps to fill in some of the blanks from a time when most of her family members couldn't read or write. Oral histories, census records, and the rare surviving photograph shared amongst the members.
Some mysteries that I had were solved because of those that came in the group and shared information.
Cousin Lynn Davis in Atlanta also points to modern genetic testing that's helped to confirm their connections.
When I go back and I look at the DNA-wise, we are truly all connected and connected through slavery.
But some of the only physical places left to connect them all are beginning to disappear.
It is completely wooded, and it breaks my heart.
An issue state officials say is abundant in Georgia.
There are a large number of cemeteries across the state. Some are, of course, venerated, and they're marked and taken well care of, but the vast majority of them are underserved, and there are some that are pretty much abandoned, and no one's looking after them at all.
An issue that's left up to local counties, historical societies, and volunteers to rectify.
There is no public agency that looks after cemeteries.
And it can be a costly fix.
It's been, I would say, at least $30,000 to $40,000.
Volunteer John Romine has been tackling Quitman's West End Cemetery roughly 10 miles away from Morven since 2014.
The little dots, if you can see them, those are the graves that they came up with, and they're all over the place.
His organization raising money to hire a company to do ground-penetrating radar. 473 unmarked graves discovered behind the cemetery in a field believed to have been dedicated to African Americans and the poor. Every single grave now marked with a metal stake that costs more than $3 each.
It's personal because these are our family members.
Fannie Marie says $1,500 she got from the Garden Club in 2019 didn't go far. She's hoping members of the Brooks County community will now step in to help out.
Asking every and anybody who is willing to help us do this, to help us.
She wants to clear the area out and install a new fence around it so future generations can visit, and she can keep that promise she made to her dad. All right, now listen to this. Here in Florida, you might remember the legislature recently created a task force commission to look at the issue. They'll decide on how to move forward with each site. Now, that has not happened in Georgia. However, there is a law that prohibits landowners there from disturbing cemeteries and prohibiting people from visiting them. Now, at the national level, there's also some movement. A bill was introduced in 2019 to a committee in Congress called the African American Burial Grounds Network Act, which would put the National Park Service in charge of such places and commission them with maintaining them. It passed the Senate in 2020, but has been held at the desk since then, so time will tell what happens with that. But it does sound that there was quite a bit of support for it. Back to you.
That is very interesting.
And not just the efforts that are going into rehabbing these places, but also too the amount of people that are connected to them
It's
all across
preserving
the country.
history.
Yeah, Katie, wow, some really interesting stuff and an important issue to shed a light on for sure.
All right, stay with us. We'll be right back.